Hi, we are the Group 1 and today we will be discussing Lesson 3, Functions and Philosophical Perspective on Art. So first, we will give you an introduction about your topic for you to have an overview or an idea about what our presentation will be.
What is art and philosophy? Philosophy of the art is the study of the nature of art, like the quality and how creative art, sculpture, etc. What is the connection between philosophy and art? Philosophy is considered a part of art because this is a speculation or insight that enters your mind. So, philosophy in art is like your insight or what you think about the art. What makes philosophy different then? The difference between philosophy and art is philosophy is how you judge the art.
Function of art: personal, social, and physical. Personal function are the different ways we think, feel, and act as individual. And also, it is how we show our feelings individually. Example, motivation and self-expression. So, motivation, what gets you going and make you want to achieve things. Self-expression, it is how we show our feelings, personality to the words like being happy, sad, or stressed.
Good day everyone. Our next topic is all about social. Social function when it addresses aspect of life opposed to one point of viewing experience. So social, where art addresses aspect of collective shared of social life rather than of individual person viewpoint or experience this function. Involves art influencing and collective behavior. Producing social community building community, celebrating culture, conveying messages to support a protect or related a broader societal concern. So, political art and a public art often exemplify this function using collective themes of enchants with impact of community. This picture is example of family portrait. Family portrait is visual representation of typical photograph that capture family members and their relationship, often in a stage setting to the shows their unity and connection. And next yearbook, a book published annually by an institution to summarize and compare the events, achievements, and student life of the past year, typically in schools, college, or university. Physical. Physical function of art often insists to understand. So physical, the practical alternative purpose of an artwork and award club or bowl, which directly save a physical need or task.
Good day, everyone. Today, I will discuss the other functions of art. First, art for social causes. It can be used to raise awareness for different issues in society. Second, art for psychological and healing purpose. Express art is also used in therapy to help people express emotions and heal. Example of art social causes. For example, posters and murals about climate change or human rights help raise awareness. So the example of psychological and healing purposes is, for example, peasants and paintings or drawings in art, therapy to release stress and emotions.
Good afternoon, everyone. My topic is all about imitationalism and formalism. Imitationalism in art is a theory that values artwork based on how realistically they imitate or represent real life. Artists focusing on imitationalism aim to make their work look as close to reality as possible, almost like a mirror in natural world. For example, Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa is admired for its lifelike representation of a human figure. Formalism. Formalism in art values the visual elements of an artwork such as line, shape, color, texture, and composition rather than the subject or meaning. A formalist artist focuses on how the artwork is made and how it looks, not necessarily what it represents. For example, those two pictures depict Mondrian's compositions with red, blue, and yellow is an example of unformalism because it emphasizes geometric shapes, balance, and color arrangement rather than trying to depict real-life objects.
Emotionalism. An emotionalist artist focuses on the expression of emotions. Emotionalism is when someone tends to let their feelings truly shape how they react, think, or make decisions. Instead of focusing mainly logic or facts, they're guided by emotions like joy, anger, sadness, or excitement. It's not always negative. It can make someone very empathetic, passionate, and expressive. But it can also mean being easily moved or reacting instantly in situations that others might see more calm. For example, imagine two friends watching a sad movie. One of them tears up, crying, openly says, "That's emotionalism, being truly moved by feelings." The other friend might just say and move on. When people value a painting because it makes them feelings something deeply, like peace, sorrow, or joy, rather than because of its technique or realism, that's emotionalism too.
Let's proceed to our next topic. What are the philosophical perspective on art? First, art as an imitation. Most artists nowadays, writers, painters, sculptors, the one who draws, and every artist, they draw inspiration to some arts that are already present or created by some artists, and sometimes they tend to imitate. And according to Plato in his work, The Republic, he paints a picture of artist as imitator and art as mere imitation. When we say imitation, it's more of an inspiration in creating the whole art in his description of the ideal republic. Plato advised against the inclusion of art as a subject in the curriculum in the banning of artists in the republic. But again, in his work in Metaphysics or View of Reality, the things in this world are only copies of the original. The eternal and the true eternities that can only be found in the world of forms. For example, the chair that one sits on is not really a chair. It's an imperfect copy of the perfect chair in the world of forms. So according to Plato, there is actually two worlds. The first one is the Republic, where everything is just an imitation from the real world. Plato was deeply suspicious of arts and artists for two reasons. So he actually questioned them. He was very suspicious of the arts and the artists. First reason is they appeal to the emotion rather to the rational faculty of man. When we say rational faculty of man, it is our ability to think, and being rational is the only thing that separates us or differentiate us from animals. Next is they appeal more on emotion. If we think of it every time that we hear sad music like Myra's music or happy music, it really affects our emotion. When we see someone dancing, especially K-pop songs or in TikTok, we tend to actually imitate them as well, follow the steps. They imitate rather than to lead the reality. Poetry rouses emotion and feelings, thus clouds rationality of people. There was even a saying, don't make a decision if you are angry or sad because it will cloud your wise judgment or wise decision. So don't actually do that. Art is just an imitation of imitation, right? A painting is just an imitation of, for example, nature. You cannot just put nature in a small canvas, so it is just an imitation. We are just giving them our presentation of the whole scene or the real scenario. a painting is just an imitation and nature is also just an imitation of reality of the world of forms. Then again, it's according to Plato. Art is then to be banished alongside the practitioners, so that the attitude and actions of the members of the republic will not be corrupted by the influence of the arts. So it's what they believe that the masterpiece of famous painters and sculpture from the past years are present up to this day. And lastly, for Plato, art is dangerous because it provides a better replacement for the real entities that can only be attained through reason. Next is art representation. Aristotle agreed with Plato that art is form of imitation. However, according to Aristotle, he considers art as an aid to philosophy in revealing the truth. The kind of imitation that art does is not antithetical to the reaching of fundamental truth in the worlds. When we say antithetical, it means directly opposite. So it is not antithetical to. Unlike Plato, who thought that art is an imitation of another imitation. Aristotle conceived of art as representing possible version of reality. So for him, all kinds of art do not aim to represent reality as it is, but to provide a vision of what might be or the many possibilities in reality. So it's just a little difference. And to make it clear, in Plato's beliefs, it's like a copycat copies a copycat, and while in Aristotle's belief, for him, all kinds of art do not aim to represent reality as it is, endeavors to provide a vision of what might be or the myriad possibilities of reality. So here's an example, which is the portrait of Mona Lisa painted by Leonardo da Vinci. There are articles that says that Mona Lisa is actually Leonardo da Vinci himself. They say that he could have just painted himself as a girl. So in 2010, Italian scientists proposed assuming the artist remains to reconstruct his face and compare it with the one in the portrait. But sadly, the request wasn't granted because according to one of the authorities, the exclamation wouldn't likely uncover the truth behind Mona Lisa. In Aristotle's worldview, art serves two particular purposes. First, it allows for the experience of pleasure. A horrible experience can be made an object of humor. So art evokes pleasure, even from unpleasant experiences like tragedy or horror, through creative representation. Like, for example, a tragic play like Romeo and Juliet can evoke both pleasure through its artistic beauty and catharsis by releasing emotions related to sorrow and loss. The second one is art also has an ability to an instructive and teach its audience things about life or cognitive. When we say cognitive, it's about using our mind. We think. So, yeah, may have agreed to this one because sometimes when you are watching a movie or you are in a museum, it somehow teaches about life, history, philosophy, and many more. It could really teach us anything, and if you allow yourself to dig deeper into the actual concept of that specific artwork. Art is a disinterested judgment. The philosopher that we have here is Immanuel Kant. In his Critique of Judgment, which is actually his work, he considers the judgment of beauty, the cornerstone of art, as a something that can be universal despite its subjective. We already know that art is subjective sometimes, and it can also be objective, and according to him, we just have the same interpretation of beauty, despite the fact that it is subjective. Kant recognized that judgment of beauty is subjective. However, even subjective judgment are based on some universal criteria for the said judgment. That's why we have criteria for judging, like in every pageant or every competition, there is what we call criteria for judging. And the last one, art as a communication of emotion. art appeals into our emotion and feeling. Now we have another great philosopher, Leo Tolstoy. According to him, art plays a huge role in communication to its audience's emotions that the artist previously experienced. So I don't know if you are watching interviews or vlogs, but I guess yes, because most of us really do that, especially if it's our favorite artist. Artists like singers or composers about how they were able to compose their songs. And sometimes they just had a breakup, like here's an example. Taylor Swift, when she broke up with Taylor Lautner, she were able to come up or write her songs back or write her song back to December. So again, it appeals really into our emotion. It communicates the emotion of the artist to the audience, just like the composer of the song or the singer of the song to its listeners. So the same as language that enable people to communicate. Art is com- Art is communicate emotion. It's like the artists are actually letting us feel his or her emotion through her or his artwork or masterpiece. So that's art as a communication. That would be all for lesson 3, functions and philosophical perspective on art. I hope you learn a lot and thank you for listening.